Hello everybody and welcome to Lauren Loves Color. This is Lauren. I am here to do just a kind of quick color and chat with you today. I am going to be coloring. This is from the Easy Coloring book by Jade Summer. I just wanted to take a few minutes just to catch up with you guys, let you guys know what's going on, how my trip was. I know a lot of people know that or maybe you didn't, that I recently went to Orlando, Florida for a conference and for a vacation, kind of turned it into a vacation with my husband. So I just wanted to mention I had a really fantastic and amazing time off. I went to Orlando at the end of June. I had a conference for work. I was given the really cool opportunity to get to go and actually speak at the conference and to kind of speak on a topic that was kind of fun and interesting to me. And so I had a really good time doing that. The conference went pretty well. I will say, I think there was a little bit of some disappointment that I had because when I got to Orlando, so I live in the Houston, Texas area, and when I got to Orlando, realized fairly quickly once we got to the hotel that there were a lot of things. Like, I stayed at the hotel that the conference was being held at. There were a lot of things with the hotel that either weren't up and running or weren't working. So it was like a big resort hotel in Orlando. And like the day before I got there, I got noticed that the pool, like they have like, a big pool with lots of slides and stuff like that, was like down for repair or not working or something. And then also when I got there, noticed that so they have like 3 or 4 restaurants inside of this resort, but only a few of them were open. The spa wasn't open, and I don't know if that was all just due to COVID or staffing issues or what the problem was, but that was kind of a bummer when I got there. Especially it was a really long trip to Orlando from Houston. I think it sounds like a lot more people are traveling now, now that COVID restrictions and things have kind of been lifted in a lot of areas. And so of course there were a lot of people with little kids, and I couldn't get a direct flight to Orlando. So I had to fly from Houston to, not Memphis. Where the heck did I go? Missouri. Whoops. I had to fly to Missouri and then fly from Missouri to Orlando. So that was, a 4.5-hour flight from Houston to actually get to Orlando. And really, I wasn't as bummed out about the pool because I'm not really much of a pool person in general. But what I was bummed about was some of the restaurants, because I really just wanted to go down to the restaurant and get something, and couldn't do that because most of the restaurants were closed. And the one that was open had like a super long wait to get into the restaurant. So that was kind of a bummer. But my room and accommodations and everything were really nice. Clearly the hotel had been updated somewhat recently. And so my room was really nice and was really spectacular. I flew in on a Tuesday, and then the conference promptly started. There was kind of a kickoff Tuesday night, and then the conference really kicked into high gear on Wednesday. Now, this conference, I'm used to being like jam-packed. It's one of the big national conferences for my profession for the year, and it really wasn't that busy. I think they said they had about 1/3 of the attendance that they normally do, but they did also offer something which was kind of cool, which I may do in years that I'm not actually able to travel there, which was to do it virtually. So you had the option to be a in-person participant or to be a virtual participant. And so I think the conference fees may have been slightly less if you were a virtual participant. I don't remember exactly, but I thought that was kind of neat because these conferences are not cheap. And if your organization doesn't have the money to pay for it, which I think this year a lot of people couldn't go because hospitals were hurting financially and stuff during COVID. And so a lot of hospitals just couldn't afford to send people to conferences. I know the hospital I work for, unless you were presenting, unless you were an actual presenter, they were not paying for people to go to conferences. So a lot of people were in that situation. And so it was nice to have the option for those people to kind of continue to do the conference virtually and to continue to participate kind of in that format. So that was kind of cool. And it wasn't very big. Like I said, there weren't a lot of people in person, but it was still pretty decent. I think they had like over 300 people in person. And so lots of really good topics. I actually got to speak to quite a few other people that hold very similar job titles and are in similar organizations like mine that I was able to connect with. And I think that's one of the really great things about going to these conferences is the ability to network, the ability that you get to connect with other people similar to what you do. Yeah, I just had a really good time. They always have one of the really fun things they always have at this conference too is you can win a car. And so I kind of felt like, okay, well, there's not as many people at this conference this year, so my chances of winning a car are probably the highest that they'll ever be being at this conference. And I did not win, unfortunately, my swan song, but I had a really great time, and it was really fun getting to watch the people win the car. The way that they do it is kind of very kind of builds the anticipation too. They basically, you have to go to, there's vendors, they have like a vendor hall, and so you have to go see all of these vendors and get like a little booklet signed. So you're kind of on a search while you're there to kind of go visit each vendor, get your little booklet signed, and you have to turn it in by a certain date and time. Once you turn that in, then what they do is they draw 3 tickets. Your completed book gets you a ticket. You put your name on the ticket and you drop it in kind of the big basket that they turn around, kind of similar to bingo. And they draw 3 names. Each person then gets a key, and then one at a time they try their key in the car. And of course, whichever key turns the car on is the winner of the prize. So that's kind of fun, just kind of being there, just even watching it and just, kind of being like, oh, is their key gonna work or is it not gonna work? And I don't know. I think it's so well done. It's really a highlight of the event. So yeah, so had a good time with that. My speech and topic went over very, very well. Fortunately, I've had the good opportunity. I used to work in marketing during part of my career, and so I did a lot of teaching, a lot of education, a lot of public speaking for that. So I don't get too freaked out. And I've spoken at conferences before, so I don't get too freaked out at speaking during these. But definitely, this was the largest audience I think that I've had. For the conference, and actually it was a little bit sad because I was supposed to go with a former coworker of mine. Actually, him and I were supposed to present together on this topic, but very last minute, like a week before the conference, something very emergent came up with his work and he had to actually cancel. So like a week prior to going, I had to edit my presentation and go to make, to kind of like extend my piece because they weren't able at the conference to help him present virtually. So what it meant was that I had to present by myself. And so that was a bit unexpected and that was the most nerve-wracking and the most I would say stressful part of the whole thing, was just trying to get all of that ready and to kind of go from thinking I was only going to be speaking for 20 to 30 minutes to having to prepare to speak for, and do do my research and get my presentation edited and all of those things to be prepared to speak for a full hour. So yeah, but ultimately ended up working out in the end, and we got through it just fine. Or I got through it just fine. I guess he wasn't there, but he felt awful. But it still ended up turning out okay. And then, what else about the conference? So the conference really mostly was on Wednesday and Thursday. And so by Thursday night, the conference really had, for the most part, ended. And so Thursday night is actually when I got to meet up with Shayna. So if you don't know Shayna, Shayna's amazing. Her color tube name is Shayna in Colorland. She actually works and openly talks about the fact that she works for Disney World. And so I knew she had to live in the Orlando area when I was going to Orlando, and I watch her videos all the time. And so I reached out to her on Instagram and just asked, would she be willing to kind of meet up? Well, she was in the middle of moving, actually, moving into a new home. So she had a super busy week. So it was kind of looking for a little while, like maybe we weren't going to get a meet up, but then she ended up making it work. And so we met after her work on Thursday and went out to just have dinner and get to meet each other. And, it's kind of funny because I'm like an extroverted introvert, and so I can be very extroverted. I would say I lean on the extroverted side, especially like with work, because I have to be. But when it comes to things like being around other people, meeting new people and stuff like that, I sometimes it just makes me a little bit, not like severely anxious, but it just, you get kind of the normal nerves of like, oh, I don't know this person, are they going to like me? Are they not going to like me? Or, whatever, that whole thing. So, basically that's how I was kind of feeling like going into this. It's kind of like a blind date. Like, I hate to say it that way. It's like, that's kind of what it feels like. So it's like, and you kind of go like, okay, so this is a person I know from the internet, like there's just this level of just kind of like this awkwardness there in that aspect. But fortunately, Shayna is just as cool in real life as what you would imagine. And like instantly we just kind of started getting into conversation, and things started flowing and feeling really comfortable, and she was just super awesome. And so we just got an opportunity to talk. I mean, I think we were at dinner for probably a good hour and a half or 2 hours and just talked everything. Talked Orlando. She gave me some good tips on she gave me some good tips on like what to do, because she knew I was going to Disney World, and kind of like, what rides to ride, and, what places kind of like that I needed to go visit and make a part of my experience. And then we talked about coloring, of course, YouTube, what it's been like being on YouTube, and what are some of the things that we experienced together, or that we've both experienced and share in, and what are some things that she's seen over over her time, because she's been on ColorTube longer than I have. What has been some things that she's seen over her time, and what are things that I've seen as well. So, we just kind of chilled and talked, and we had a really, really great time. So I was really, really thankful for that opportunity. And was glad I kind of put myself out there to kind of just say, no, I think it would be cool to meet her, because, if I had not done that, I would not have gotten the opportunity to kind of meet such a cool girl. And she really is. And she's really just a phenomenally nice person. So thank you, Shayna, if you're watching this, for agreeing to meet up with me. I'm thinking, so I chose a blue. Yeah, I guess I'll just use this blue. So yeah, so had a really good time. So that was Thursday. And then Friday, what did I do? Did we go to Disney? So Friday, my husband flew in from Houston. So He was so gracious to take care of my little kiddos, or take care of our little kiddos, really, while I was at the conference. And then he flew up from Houston to come join me in Orlando to kind of kick off the vacation on Friday. So Friday he was flying in. I took the opportunity to sleep in that morning, because for me, one of the biggest things about this vacation really was getting the opportunity to sleep, because you guys know, most of you guys know, I have a young daughter. She's 12 months old. She's actually 13 months old now, but she was 12 months old at the time. And she has had just an awful time with sleeping through the night. Like, she really, since she was a baby, only probably a few, maybe a week total of time, or maybe a couple weeks total of time at most, has she slept through the night. And so by the time that I was in Orlando still, I was just exhausted. You know, I work full time. We have also a 3-year-old son. And so, it's exhausting, and I really I told my husband, I really wanted just some time to sleep with, without having the alarm clock of my kids, going off, and just waking me up crying, or getting some undisrupted sleep during the middle of the night. And so Friday was my day, because I didn't have anything in the conference going on that morning. The conference was over, and so I was able to get to sleep in on Friday, which was just glorious. And so I slept in as long as I could until I needed to start getting up to pack, because we changed hotels, because my work paid for my hotel, of course, while I was at the conference. But they weren't not going to pay for, of course, my hotel for me just staying there for personal time and vacation. So I had to pack up Friday and then move to a different hotel on Friday. So I met my husband at the new hotel, and then when we got there, they didn't have a room available at the time for us, and so we decided to go to Disney Springs in Orlando, which, if you're not familiar with Disney Springs is not like an actual theme park. It's, I don't know if it's run or managed by Disney, but it's kind of like just a big outdoor shopping and food experience. So they have all sorts of different Disney themed gift shops of different kinds, different street vendors, and different food vendors that are there. They also have things like a bowling alley. They have Cirque du Soleil seems to be coming over there. Like, there's a lot more, like, also entertainment venues kind of located in that area. So yeah, so we went there, and then, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to think about what I want to do here. I think what I want to do is, let's color these in. I don't know which side is the red side and which side is the blue side, but we're just going to kind of guess. So what was I saying? So we went to Disney Springs, and one of the things is, so my boss at work, she actually she grew up in the Miami, Florida area. And so when she knew that I was going for this conference, she consistently told me over and over again, when you go to Disney Springs, you need to go to this cookie place called Gideon's and go get these, like, cookies. Like, they're amazing, famous, wonderful cookies. You've got to go to Gideon's, and make sure you go first thing when you get there, because when you get in line, it's like a 2-hour wait to get these cookies. So I was like, okay. So we did. We went right when we got there. The first thing that we did was go and join the virtual queue for the Gideon's cookies, and it was a 2-hour and 45-minute wait to get even in line. Like, it was like a 2-hour and 45-minute wait to get in the line to get the cookies. So it was probably, you know, a good 3 hours. But when you join the virtual queue, we were able to kind of walk around and just go shopping, you know, and kind of go walk the Disney park area, or walk Disney Springs while we waited. So that worked out really well, and we went and we did get our Gideon's cookies. It was an amazing place. It's like a Gothic style place. It reminded me of something straight out of Harry Potter, and it legitimately just reminded me of Harry Potter and that whole kind of vibe. And it's got a very gothic-y kind of vibe. It had like these little fake flames that were shooting up these kind of holographic looking things, and they pump different smells in the room that make it just smell scrumptious and yummy. And the cookies, like, I kid you not, the cookies were massive, and they're thick, and they even limit like how many cookies you can get per person just because of the popularity of their cookies and everything. So yeah, so I was glad that we went, and we got to eat some of the cookies and stuff there. And what we ended up doing was we bought the maximum number of cookies we could. So we bought the 6 cookies, and we just decided we would eat them throughout like our stay in Orlando. And oh my gosh, when I tell you guys, these cookies were huge. They were so big. We could not eat all of the cookies in enough time when we were in Orlando. So we actually ended up bringing them home and eating them for probably a good week after we got back to Houston. But gosh, those cookies are really good. Like, especially if you just kind of warmed them up a little bit and got a big glass of milk. Like, oh my gosh, they were awesome. So we had a good time with Gideon's. And then Saturday is when we went to Epcot. So my husband had never been to Disney before, so he actually did a lot of like prepping and watching videos and stuff on things to do. And I hadn't been to Disney since I was a very young child. And so he was really, really excited. He's a big roller coaster guy. And I mean, I like roller coasters, but they're not like my main attraction. And so that was really his priority when we got there. So when we went to Epcot, he really kind of wanted to start off by riding some of the big rides. And then once we got through some of the bigger rides, then it was go through kind of each little country in Epcot and just kind of enjoy the food and atmosphere. And it was fun. Epcot, I think the big thing was too, one of the big disappointing things to me was that Disney isn't still fully all the way open yet. So they had some places, like a lot of the shopping places and stuff were still closed. They kind of centralized the shopping in specific areas, and my husband loved that because it kept me from, you know, feeling like I needed to buy something in each country. But I felt it took a little bit away from the experience not have all of it open, because I even just liked going in the little shops to see the themes of each of the countries, you know, shops and stuff. Like walking into like the Asia area, like it's cool to see the little Asian shops and just unique things they have there. And it looks like they're going to be opening a new ride, a Ratatouille ride, I think this fall, and that looks to be super cool. So that wasn't open yet. They kind of opened a new section of Epcot, but they hadn't opened the ride yet. But if you're going to Disney World, that seems like that's going to be the ride to ride if you're going to Epcot. And we pretty much rode all of the rides except for that we did not do the Frozen ride. We did not make that one. And then I did not ride the it's either Mission Space or something where you're in basically like a rocket ship. And the reason I didn't do it is because I do get a little bit woozy, and sometimes when things are like spinning. And so this one, it like shakes and it spins, and it kind of, you know, is supposed to make you feel like you're kind of like taking off from the earth. And they give you fair warning that people get sick on that ride, and so I skipped that one. My husband went on it, and there wasn't a long wait for it, so he went on it, and I stayed behind for that. So yeah, but that was fun at Epcot. And then the next day on Sunday is when we went to Hollywood Studios. And Hollywood Studios was a lot of fun. I will say, I think between the two parks, I liked Hollywood Studios better. We got to ride, there were more rides and more things to do there. The park was a little bit busier, and it was a little bit warmer that day. But nonetheless, it was really good. Let's see what I want to do. I'm gonna just try to do a little bit of shading. So yeah, so we had a really good time though. I went to, I think I really liked the Slinky Dog ride in Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I really liked the Tower of Terror. It was my first time riding a ride like that. That's kind of one that kind of goes straight down. And so that was kind of exhilarating and fun, and I had a really good time with that. I don't think I could do one of those rides, like if it's outside, like the big ones that drop, like those kind of terrify me. Like seeing how high up you are, but this one was actually kind of contained indoors, and so I really liked that one. The only thing about it though is it was just freaking hot. I mean, I was impressed because a lot at Disney though was, and this was one thing I was kind of worried about, like a lot of their wait lines and stuff are actually somewhat covered, or mostly they're indoors. So it's actually not too bad. You can get reprieve from the sun, but you are standing for long extended amounts of time. We waited in line. They don't have like Fast Pass open or anything right now, so everybody just has to kind of wait in the general line. They do have some single rider lines open though, which we did take advantage of that for areas that you know had that open. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, I think we waited for the most part, like for the popular rides, it was anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half probably to get into those rides. 30 minutes if we were lucky on some of them. But we rode pretty much every ride other than some of the kiddie rides in Hollywood Studios. And gosh, my feet, because I had been walking at the conference already before then, and guys, I was not used to walking that much. My feet every day were just on fire. They were killing me. I was so exhausted every day that we got back. I mean, I walked, when I looked at my watch, it was like 7 to 8 miles a day of walking, and then being outside in the sun for that long. And so when we would come back to the hotel, we just crashed. We were so tired. We just wanted to take a shower because we had been outside all day, and then just totally crashed. So, but we had a really good time. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there and felt like it was a really great experience. So Disney was really fun. It was magical. I think my husband really enjoyed it. It definitely made me think about when I'm going to take my kids, because there were people even asking me, you know, about like, oh, are you going to take Ryder and Emma with you and stuff? And I was like, no, like they're a year old and 3, like there's no way they could handle it. And I kind of thought like, well, maybe once my kids are closer to the age of like 5 and 6 years old. But I'll tell you, I think even this experience has made me would make me reevaluate that. I honestly think my kids probably need to be closer to 8, between the ages of maybe 8 and 10, to really be able to handle Disney really well. Because I was watching some of these kids that were younger, and I think just the amount of time that you're outside in the heat waiting for something, you have to kind of have kids who can be entertained, you know, can kind of entertain themselves. So there were a lot of people playing games and stuff on their phones and stuff like that kind of throughout the park. But there were a lot of kids like that you would see, Ricky and I would talk about that they would just expire. Like it was like they would just reach this point to where they were just so tired, so exhausted from their day, that the parents, you know, just couldn't get them to last much longer. And it got to the point to where the kids weren't having, you know, fun, and the parents weren't then having fun because they were dealing with the kids that were not having the time of their life. And for the price that you pay to go to Disney, I want to make sure my kids have a good time. So I definitely think it's going to be some time before I decide to take Emma and Ryder. And we did not go to Magic Kingdom. We decided on Hollywood Studios and Epcot because we had kind of heard that Epcot was, you know, as an adult, like the place to go. And I would agree, that was definitely probably the most adult place. And then to go to Hollywood Studios for some of the rides. We kind of wanted to save Magic Kingdom for our kids. And they were not doing like the fireworks show or anything there at the time. So that was the other kind of little bummer, as we had heard, you know, a lot about the fireworks show and about how cool the fireworks were at Disney. And unfortunately, we didn't get to experience that. But also at the end of the day, I think we got to do a little bit more like with the rides and stuff like that, because there still weren't as many people as normal coming through Disney. So I still think it made it, like, I was kind of worried when I got on the plane and there were just so many people. But the more and more we spent time there, the more and more I was like, you know what, this is not as busy as I really thought that it would be. So it actually ended up turning out pretty good. So we had a really good time. We ended up coming back home on, did we come back home on Monday? Yeah, on Monday, and went and picked up our kids, and that was nice. It sounds like my parents watched my kids, and it sounds like my kids did pretty good, with the exception of my daughter, who just refuses to sleep through the night. Like, it's so funny because my daughter is like, she's like seriously one of the happiest kids that I've met. She's just genuinely so happy all the time. But it's like, but baby girl, like, just sleep through the night for mommy. Like, just sleep through the night. But honestly now, I don't know what's gotten into her, and I don't know if it's a phase, and I should probably knock on wood, but she's been sleeping really well these past few nights, or this past week, really. This entire past week she's done really, really well with sleeping through the night. So I don't know what's gotten into her, but she's doing awesome with that. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I have for you. I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to kind of speed this up a little bit. It's been about 33 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and time lapse this so you can see the rest of the page, and I will come back when it's done. See you soon. Bye. right, so here's my completed page. This I kind of ended up keeping somewhat simple. You guys saw I was shading with just some crayons just to add, like, make some texture on the popcorn and on different areas. I took a white, I needed a bolder line, so I actually took, these are my Magicfly acrylic paint pens. I like these a lot, and I use it just to add the simple like white lines there, because it's got a kind of like a broad nib, and then it has a fine, like a super fine nib as well. And even these nibs are like reversible and stuff. They're pretty cool. They come in like a, if you haven't seen these, they come in like a nice little pack of 24. And so I just added that, and then I went through with my Jelly Roll Glaze pens, which add like just this kind of wet shine, and added that to the 3D glasses that were here, and then added little like droplets here on the cup, just to kind of make the cup look like it was sweating or wet. And then I went through with my colorless blender and just did some of the pieces of popcorn just to give it some texture. I realized, unfortunately, very quickly that, fortunately, very quickly, that I was using it without my blotter page on back. So I have a little bit of bleed through of yellow on the back of this page, but it's really not, it's hardly noticeable. And I can cover that up with like putting a black background in or something. So, yeah, so I was going to put a background in by utilizing like my distress inks or oxides, but I just decided I like it simply how it is, and so this is how I'm going to leave it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun to catch up with you guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe, ring that bell so that you can be aware of when my next video is, and I will see y'all again later. Bye, everyone.